I've had access to the RENNSPORT closed beta for a few weeks. In that time since, at least a couple of updates have dropped, so I have held off from making this video, I think for long enough, so I do consider it fair game now. My understanding is RENNSPORT is planned to launch later this year on PC and then on console in 2024. Being that this is a beta, lots of things will change between now and the release, but of course most of what we get here, it will carry over to the final game. This beta is pretty well fleshed out with sample content. There's single and multiplayer. There's no AI, so single player is simply hot lapping. There's 5 tracks and 5 cars, so enough variety to get your chops into. Back when I first tried the beta, weeks back, my Moser wheelbase didn't quite behave right with the game, so I did swap it out with my CSL-DD, and that is much better. I haven't retested with the Moser wheelbase in the latest update, so potentially things could be working just fine now. Let's start with the visuals. RENNSPORT is built on the Unreal 5 engine and comes with DLSS upscaling. There's no support for AMD FSR upscaling at this time, and no specific triple screen options yet. Both DirectX 11 and 12 are supported. I'm running the Ultra settings here. There's no VR support yet, but that should be coming on launch. Things are running smoothly, though I haven't run any benchmarks, and bear in mind I am the only car on the track here, so things should be running quite quick anyway. The graphics are decent, there's good detail around the track. This is a sim, so it's important that the tracks are accurately represented and the tracks are laser scanned, so that's very good. There is some random pop-in on distant trackside graphics, mostly observable at the lower graphic settings. Since the single player content currently doesn't support AI, I don't know how well detailed the cars are outside of my cockpit view, and there's no replay mode in the beta. You can see the visuals here, so we'll just leave it at that. The main thing I do want to talk about is the driving physics. It's definitely a sim. You won't be drifting around the track, or at least not intentionally. The feeling of the cars through the force feedback is on the right path, but not 100%. At this stage in the closed beta, that's not too unexpected. Other sim racing titles have been known to get physics updates well after release. So my assessment today shouldn't be considered concrete, it's just a reflection of the state of play as of this moment. The force feedback is relaying plenty of effects. Bumps, curbs and off-road elements come through solidly. They feel detailed and consistent through my CSL-DD, and the effects can be quite intense. The best example of this is driving the Praga. You can see the shaky movement from the cockpit. The car is picking up those bumps from the track, and I can feel these aggressive vibrations through my hands, and that does make the car feel pretty mean. I have no idea if that's how it's meant to be in the final version of this car, as the rest of the GT lineup are a lot smoother to ride and closer to what I would expect from this car class. However, there is a crucial absence across the board of dynamic range of tyre grip. When pushing the car through corners, counterforce weight comes through the wheel as expected, but there's a complete lack of depth. It's just an arbitrary measure of counterweight. It just feels the same regardless of speed or steering angle. There's no difference. It's simply just weight without any dynamic features. If I apply some brake or acceleration while cornering, there's absolutely no change to the force feedback response that there should be. This can sometimes give the car a floaty feel around corners. There's no seat of the pants feel through the force feedback. If I experiment with different corner approaches, I can't tell the difference through the handling if I've achieved more or less grip or where the limit is. And some cars handle better than others. I did struggle with the Audi, which feels very light and vague. You might be able to get a sense of that through this clip. If I disregard that negative, the force feedback is good enough up to that point, but missing a piece of the puzzle. It's indeed a deal breaker for a sim racing game, and I fully expect the force feedback physics at this point in time is just work in progress, and we'll see improvements and updates and everything will look a lot better in the future, so we just have to wait and see. I can see RENNSPORT has the building blocks in place for what could be a good sim racing title. Is it bringing anything new to the table? No, not really, I suppose, at least from what I can see here, but it looks like it could be a good game if they get it right, and you can see it shows a lot of promise. So let's see how things develop, and hopefully on release it'll be a great game, and maybe I'll visit this one again. So for now, that's just my initial impressions from this beta. It's clearly unfinished, but does demonstrate RENNSPORT is intended to be a serious sim racing game, and that's great news for us. I've dropped a link in the description to where you can register for a free beta key. These go out in batches, so you may have to wait a few weeks. It took me a couple of weeks after registering to obtain access myself. Also note, the beta is accessed through the Epic Game Store client. Are you looking forward to RENNSPORT, or have you already played the beta? Let me know in the comments. As always guys, thanks very much for watching, and until next time, happy simming and bye bye.